Surrender? Who wants surrender? Defeat? Who needs that? Suffering? I have enough. So let's not have a cross in our church. It makes sense. It does. Because I don't know about you, but in my personal life, in my day-to-day, I don't exactly run towards suffering. Do you? No. Who does that? Nobody runs towards suffering. And I was glad to notice that not even Jesus of Nazareth ran towards suffering. Need I remind you of the Garden of Gethsemane? Need I lift up that he was here praying to the Father, wondering, what? Is there any other way? Right? I mean, who in their right minds runs towards suffering and defeat? I have had the opportunity over the last few days to witness wrestling up front. I didn't know anything about wrestling, but Caleb has gone out for wrestling, and that puts parents in the bleachers. Grandparents would be too if they were here, all of us. And I tell you, I don't know about you all, but it is not a fun sport to watch. I mean, we have guys wrestling, girls wrestling guys, and I watch them, not very many walk off of those mats with dry eyes. Not many do. Because even if you win, you probably have been pinched once or twice, and it is not fun. Nobody enjoys suffering. And yet, there is something upside down about what Jesus is about. It is upside down. He tries so many different ways to get this upside down message to the disciples. And it is hard to hear it, hard to receive it, even harder to practice it. It is hard. So Luke tells us that just after Jesus had been revealed to the disciples and, Peter has made this confession, you are the Christ, right? You are God's anointed. He tells them, I don't want you to say anything to anybody. And the main reason is that, you don't quite understand what it means yet. That this Son of Man has to suffer, remember? And Peter takes him, what do you mean? What are you talking about, suffer? The Messiah we have in mind doesn't suffer. Are you kidding? We are talking about triumph here. The whole thing, my friends, is upside down. It's upside down. Luke tells us then, Jesus began to say to them, if anyone wants to become my followers, let them deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. For those who want to save their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will save it. It's upside down. It's not what I would expect, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Not even when we look at the life of Jesus. It's upside down. So it turns out that when you say no, you are actually saying yes. What? Yeah, when you say no, you're actually saying yes. And a while ago, this is kind of a, what do you call a sidebar? There's a sidebar here. You know how people go door to door and sell stuff? It turns out salespeople have been trained to hear maybe when you say no. When you say no, they hear maybe. And when you say maybe, guess what they hear? They say yes. And it's always one step ahead. Here is kind of another weird one. When you say no, you're actually saying yes. Let's talk about it. What does it mean to deny yourself? Bottom line, as best I can understand it, maybe a year from now I'll preach another message and come to a different understanding. But for now, to deny yourself, as we see it in the life of Jesus, is the freedom to say no to yourself. The freedom to say no to yourself. So let's go to the temptations of Jesus. Both Mark, Luke, and I think Matthew as well tell us about the temptations of Jesus. You have heard the story perhaps. Jesus has been baptized. It is a high point, right? This is the beginning of Jesus' ministry. He has been baptized by John in the Jordan. And the skies open and the Holy Spirit comes down in the form of a dove. A voice speaks, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." It's a high point. All the Gospels then tell us that right after that, Jesus is led by the same Spirit that just came from up above, and he is driven to the desert, the wilderness, for a time of testing. It will be time of temptation. You know the temptations. He has been there, he has not eaten or drank for 40 days, and after that, the Bible says he is famished, he is very hungry, as he should be. And the evil one shows up and says, "Okay, now if you are the Son of God, turn these loaves into bread." What's wrong with turning loaves into bread? Especially if you're hungry. Well, what's wrong with that? If you can do it. I mean, my goodness, if I could turn loaves into bread, are you kidding? I'll make one phone call and tell the Lord's Diner their work is done. I can turn stones into bread. Now the question is, where do we find the stones? I mean, we will have abundance of bread anywhere you looked. But Jesus, who is hungry, decides not to. Saying no to himself. I mean, talk about instant acclaim. It goes to the idea of, well, security, safety. Who doesn't want security and safety? And as I was thinking about this message, I was thinking, I don't know, maybe there is, maybe not, I don't know, but is there any among us here today, don't raise up your hand, who actually worries about where their next meal will come from? From time to time, I've had conversations right here in our church where that is an issue. But security and safety is what it's about. Security. Who doesn't want a little security? Who doesn't want a little safety? I want my children to go to school and come back home safely. I mean, we're talking about the basic primal human need here. Security, safety. Nothing extravagant. Saying no to oneself. That's what it means to deny yourself. Second temptation. It's a quick cruise to the highest peak of the temple. Here, it says in the Bible, if you jump, God will guard you by his angels, and you will not strike your foot against the stone. Why don't you take a jump? Lots of people are looking. Think of esteem and affection. Esteem. That's when people line the hallways and sing, "How great thou art," when you're coming through. That's esteem. I wish that would happen more often. High school, middle school, college, I don't care. Who doesn't like to be liked, to be esteemed? People are gathered, Jesus. I know what you're up to. I mean, we could save a lot of suffering if you just cause these people by your antics to just crown you king right now. I mean, who can survive such a fall? Denying yourself. Saying no to yourself. This moment is coming, but it is 3 years away yet. And then we finally come to what I think is the crown temptation. It must have been at night. Luke says that Jesus was shown the kingdoms of the world in their splendor. That means it was an impressive sight. Anybody would be awed. All you have to do is bow down to me. And it's yours. Behind that is the idea of control and power. Control and power. Who doesn't like a little control and power? We have just gone through an election cycle. Need I say more? It's all about control and power. Who is in charge? Who can call which shots? Who has which leverage on which spot? I mean, the whole thing is about control and power. Who can do what? All you have to do is bow down to me and it's yours. Are you free enough to say no to yourself? Can you say no to yourself? Now, somebody is thinking at the back, hold on for a second, Pastor. Am I hearing you say we're not supposed to take care of ourselves? I mean, are we supposed to be that selfless? We're not supposed to eat at all? And what if somebody gives you a compliment? What's wrong with a little compliment? Are you suggesting that we are to eat bread and water for the rest of our lives? I mean, where is this thing applied really? So let me distinguish a little bit. You remember this scene in the airport, in the airplane, the last time you flew? The last time you flew, there was this announcement about the oxygen mask. Remember? It may come down. Personally, I have not experienced it before, but apparently it happens. And if you happen to be traveling with somebody who is counting on you, you've heard this before, what you're supposed to do is what? Put yours on first, so that you can help the other. There is the distinction right there. It is for service of the other. It is for care of the other. So you put on your mask so that you have something in your lungs while you seek to help the other. That is called being self-full. 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 It means good self-care. It means taking care of yourself. We need to do that so that we can care for others. There's your connection there. When you drop the caring for others from it, then it's just self-centered, isn't it? Then it's just me, I, and myself, and I don't care who goes to where. So we are supposed to take care of ourselves, yes. So that we can care for others. Mark reminds us that even the Son of Man did not come just to be served, but to serve others and to give his life a ransom for many. So anytime we forget the caring for, serving for others part, anytime we forget that, we are no longer saying no to ourselves, because what it means is that the self is front and center. That's it. It's just me. It's what I want. It's my desires. It's what makes me feel good. Just me. That's the self in the front and center. That's the self we cannot say no to. And Jesus says, if you can't say no to yourself, you lose yourself. Life becomes very small. Because that's all there is. Isn't it strange, though? Isn't it strange that all of us admire so much those who embrace this idea of saying no to themselves? It's hard to do, yes, but we always so admire people, the Mother Teresas of the world, the selfless people of the world. Some sit right here in our pews that so willingly think of others, serve others. Imagine what it would look like to learn to say no to ourselves. When it came time to make a decision, the bottom line would not be, well, what do I like? What makes me more comfortable? What do I want to see happen? That's all just self, isn't it? Think of what it would look like if it's not the self that is the center, but we say no to ourselves in service of others. I wonder what Mark would think of that. I wonder what Roger would find meaningful. I wonder what Barbara will find meaningful. And to have that kind of conversation, my goodness, and then to have Mark ask the same question. I wonder what Carol thinks about that. I wonder what Roger thinks about that. I wonder what Fred thinks about this. Other-centeredness. Wow! Who wouldn't want to be part of that? That's what Jesus is getting at. But the temptation is to say yes to self. A story is told of a monkey who died a sad death out in the wilderness of Papua New Guinea. The reason the monkey died was that it went to hunt for coconuts. And the hunters there are smart. They take these coconuts off the tree and they make a cutting at the back of the coconut, and so that the fingers can crawl through and the sliver is so small that you can put your finger in there and grab some coconut meat, but you can't get your hand out. You can't get your hand out. And the monkey goes over there, and here is this It's a trap, really. And puts his finger in there and grabs some meat of coconut. Can't get the finger out, the hands out. And will sit there and hold on until it is slaughtered and eaten. Jesus says, if you say no to yourself, you're actually saying yes. And if you say yes to yourself, you're actually saying no.